If you know my most recent video, things that have happened to me, you'll know that it's more of like a podcast video, and I actually really enjoy those. So basically, this is gonna be more like one of those. So about a year or two ago, I made a Dragon Ball OC when I was in love with Dragon Ball, named Tomuto. This is more of a podcast video, has multiple parts. Um, and it's what if my OC Tomuto had his own series in Dragon Ball. Real quick, I just want to take a moment to thank Carthu for inspiring me to do this with his video. What if Carthu was in DBZ? Sen Pirates for helping me base the character. He did this Dragon Ball Block C series on Minecraft. I'd recommend watching it. He's a really cool dude. And I had nothing to put here, so I put, I guess, me for making up the story and just making this voiceover. So our story begins as most Dragon Ball sagas end. That's right, Tomoto dies in the explosion of his planet Apuru. It was destroyed by the evil space tyrant Gelato after they refused to give him the sheep. So Gelato got stubborn since they didn't hand over their sheep, and they were being abusive to the sheep. One person was able to survive, Tomoto's friend Alex, but they never reunited, so he's not going to be part of this story. Anyways, Tomuto was then transported to heaven. Once Tomuto had made it to Otherworld, he talked to King Yema there, and King Yema told him that if he wanted to get stronger, he had to walk down Snake Way. So that's indeed what Tomuto did, and he ended up at the Kai planet. After Tomuto had arrived on the Kai planet, the Kai greeted him and introduced himself as King Kai, the owner of the Kai planet. Tomuto told him his quest, and the Kai said he could help him by helping him learn Kaioken. The Kaioken is a technique that allows Tomuto to increase his speed and strength at the cost of his stamina and his physical body. Yeah. So it put immense strain on his body. He said he'd do anything to defeat Gelato, though, so he took the training. Tomuto had trained on the Kai planet for 12 months or 1 year until this happened. Suddenly, Tomuto's halo had disappeared and he was teleported somewhere. The god of Earth, Majin Sen, had revived him. Majin Sen knew Tomuto's desire and decided to train him. He took him to the time chamber, where one day out here was 365 days in there. Tomuto trained in there until he had mastered Kaioken. He felt as if he was ready to defeat Gelato, but Sen told him to take caution. His life was in Tomuto's hands. If Tomuto died, that would ensure Sen's death, and that would ensure that the Dragon Balls would no longer work. Sen was omnipotent and told Tomuto that Gelato would be landing here in the wasteland in about an hour. So Tomuto waited there patiently, meditating. He suddenly heard a crash as Gelato's ship had landed. Gelato walked out of his ship holding 2 sheep. Their names were Betsy and Bertrude. He put them in a safe place and walked up to Tomuto. He told him that he was Gelato, the one that had destroyed his planet and all of his family. Tomuto was furious. He uttered a few single words: Kaioken times 20. Suddenly, Tomuto became more powerful. His aura bursted with energy which in the likes of which Gelato has never seen. Gelato was surprised and powered up to his second form, not wanting to risk fighting in his first form. Tomuto understood this and decided to go all out, hoping that Gelato would too, as he'd been waiting for this encounter for a while now, and he wanted to make the most of it. Tomuto and Gelato had a good fight, but then Gelato started getting bored. Gelato decided to power up into Form 3. The back of his head began to grow as he turned into something that looked like a xenomorph. Tomuto pointed this out, and then he got punched by Gelato. Gelato began beating down Tomuto like there was no tomorrow, except that Tomuto wasn't getting damaged at all. He was freaking durable due to all of his training in the time chamber. So Gelato decided to toy with him a bit. Gelato suddenly stopped beating down Tomuto and stood him up. So Gelato told him the story of how he stopped at Namek to get some fuel from the locals. By that I mean their corpses. And there was this kid named Alex, the one I talked about at the beginning of the story, Tomuto's friend. Gelato told Alex's quest. Alex got mad. He killed Alex. And then, after hearing that, Tomuto got pissed. He began powering up. His power levels skyrocketed. It struck fear in even Gelato, who was assumed to be the most powerful warrior in the galaxy. Tomuto's hair had suddenly turned blonde. He had achieved Super Saiyan. Knowing Gelato was in danger, he entered his final form, though he stood no chance against the Super Saiyan. The Super Saiyan Tomuto was too fast for Gelato to even see him. He delivered a rush of blows, eventually chopping Gelato in the neck, slicing his head clean off. Gelato had been defeated. Tomuto then stomped Gelato's head clean into shards, went to base, and passed out. He was then taken back to the lookout by Sen. Once Tomuto was conscious again, he asked Sen what that was there. Sen had never heard of the Super Saiyan, so he did not answer. Tomuto took this as a "I've never heard this," and asked, "Do you think I could master this?" Sen nodded and pointed to the time chamber. Tomuto then went in for an Earth year, 365 years in the time chamber. He was that dedicated. Thank you for coming to part 1 of If Tomuto Was in DBZ. As I said, this is going to be a multiple part series, probably 3 parts, yeah. And yeah, if you enjoyed, make sure to let me know by leaving a like. I'm kidding, you don't have to, I'm not trying to sell out or anything, but do consider it if you like this video. Anyways, goodbye.